Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Numbers of Thoth. Tutankhamun may be the most famous king in history, but there are still things you probably don't know about him. In this video, we bring you 10 surprising facts about the boy king and his tomb. 1. He was not known as Tutankhamun in his lifetime. At birth, he was named Tutankhamun, meaning living image of Aten, referring to the god of the sun disk worshipped by his heretic father, Akhenaten. When he ascended the throne, he changed his name to Tutankhamun, meaning living image of a moon. Re-establishing the old order, where Amun was the chief of the gods and head of the pantheon at Thebes. Akhenaten had tried to shift the culture away from Egypt's traditional religion of polytheistic worship, which had been unpopular. After his death, his monuments were dismantled and hidden, and his name was removed from the king's lists. So, it's perhaps no surprise his son wanted to keep his distance. Although we know him by the name Tutankhamun because it is the name written on his monuments, he was called Nefertiti by the ancient Egyptians. Egyptian kings had 5 names, and the last 2 were the most important, the praenomen and the nomen. These were the names written on monuments. So, although we know him by his nomen, Tutankhamun, the Egyptians knew him by his praenomen, Nefertiti. 2. His mother was not Nefertiti. For many years it was thought that Tutankhamun's mother was Nefertiti, the royal wife of Akhenaten. However, recent DNA tests of a mummy known only as the Younger Lady have identified this woman as the mother of the pharaoh Tutankhamun and a daughter of Pharaoh Amenhotep III and his great royal wife Tiye. Despite the Younger Lady being the daughter of a Pharaoh Amenhotep III, a full sister and probable wife to a second pharaoh Akhenaten, and the mother of a third pharaoh Tutankhamun, she does not appear to have been a prominent figure in her lifetime. To date, no inscription, relief, or statue dedicated to this young pharaoh's mother has been found. KV62, the tomb of Tutankhamun, contains mementos from his life and reign. None of these items ever mention his mother. This is in stark contrast to the influential mothers of the pharaohs of the 18th dynasty, who had a large presence in the reigns of their sons. Tia served as king's mother to Thutmose IV, Mutmuya as king's mother to Amenhotep III, and Tiye as king's mother to Akhenaten. It seems likely that Tutankhamun never had a king's mother during his reign, indicating that she had died before his rise to the throne. This lends credence to the Younger Lady being a minor wife of Akhenaten, who died before Tutankhamun became king. Egyptologist, Wilkie Wendrick, also considers it likely that she was a minor wife or a concubine to Akhenaten. Wendrick notes that the pharaohs of Egypt typically had multiple wives. This often resulted in numerous sons serving as viable heirs to the throne, creating potential competition among the sons to gain the right to succeed their father. 3. He couldn't walk without a stick. Ancient drawings depict Tuts shooting arrows sitting in a chariot, which researchers say is unusual. What's more, he was buried with 130 walking sticks. His mummified remains show clearly that the boy king had a clubbed foot, and a pair of the orthopedic sandals with paintings of his enemies on the soles were found in his tomb. Recent research suggests that King Tutankhamun may have had scoliosis, a sideways curvature of the spine that most often is diagnosed in adolescence. The CAT scan showed he had severe kyphoscoliosis, an abnormal spine curvature in both the coronal and sagittal planes. It is a combination of kyphosis, a curving of the spine that causes a rounding of the back, which leads to a hunchback or slouching posture, and scoliosis. While the cause is unknown, scoliosis does tend to run in families. The specific genes involved have not all been identified yet, and there could be factors beyond genetics as well. The scan confirmed that he had oligodactyly, which is a toe malformation. This condition would have made his left foot swell and also caused him excruciating pain when he walked. 4. He married his half-sister and was the father of twins. When Tutankhamun became king, he married his half-sister, Ankhesenpatum. She later changed her name to Ankhesenamun and adopted the worship of the moon. Tutankhamun and Ankhesenamun had 2 daughters, neither of whom survived infancy. According to the evidence collected from the tomb, King Tut and his wife had daughters. The remains of the twin daughters were discovered in his burial place. It is evident that their daughters were stillborn, and the DNA tests showed that at least one of them had a skeletal deformity. 5. No one knows how he died. King Tut ascended to the throne when he was only 9 or 10 years old and died when he was probably about 18 or 19. His reign was relatively short, lasting only 10 years, at the most. An X-ray of Tutankhamun's mummified remains in 1968 found intercranial bone fragments, prompting the theory that he was murdered with a blow to the head. Egyptologist Bob Breyer suggested that I murdered Tutankhamun in order to usurp the throne, a claim he based on the X-ray examinations of the body done in 1968. He also alleged that Ankhesenamun, Tutankhamun's wife, and the Hittite prince she was about to marry were also murdered at his orders. This murder theory was not accepted by all scholars, as it seems likely the damage to the head was probably the result of modern unwrapping. In 2005, an investigation into the boy king's death led by Dr. Chris Norton of the Egypt Exploration Society and a team of forensic scientists from Cranfield University in the UK. This virtual autopsy showed a distinct pattern of injuries on one side of Tut's body. The analysis showed that he was crushed on one side of his body, likely while on his knees. The impact shattered his pelvis and ribs and crushed his heart so badly that it was unsalvageable for the mummification. Car crash investigators then used computer simulations similar to those used to determine injuries to car crash victims and came up with the idea that the young king had been killed in a chariot accident. A 2010 article by the Journal of the American Medical Association outlined a study of the Egyptian king that estimates his death at around 17 to 19 years of age. Based on tests conducted on the remains of Tut, it is believed he died at such a young age of conditions including malaria and complications from a leg fracture. In 2013, because parts of the chest wall and ribs were missing, another theory emerged concerning the death of the king. This theory confirmed the 2005 results that the king had died in a chariot accident. But, that must be impossible because when the body was photographed at the time of Carter's excavation in 1926, the chest wall was still intact. The damaged chest wall seems to have been inflicted by robbers during the theft of the beaded collar. And so, the cause of Tutankhamun's death remains a mystery to be solved. 6. His tomb was not ready when he died. One of the interesting features of these walls and the paintings are these strange sorts of spotty marks. These black patches that you see all around the walls are, in fact, organic. They are mold. This mold appears nowhere else in the Valley of the Kings. At first, conservation experts worried that in this otherwise dry environment, the decay was caused by the breath and sweat of countless tourists. But a study of Howard Carter's original photographs revealed that this could not be the case. The spots can clearly be seen when the pictures were taken shortly after the tomb was found. This intriguing bit of archaeological detective work gives experts an insight into events over 3,000 years ago and the precise time of Tut's burial. It seems that his tomb was sealed before the paint on the walls had dried, trapping insufficient dampness for the mold to grow. It seems the king's burial chamber was decorated in a hurry. Perhaps in weeks rather than years, as was often the case for New Kingdom pharaohs. Another indication the burial was a rush job is that when Tutankhamun was buried, his mummified body was laid within a nest of 3 golden coffins, like a set of Russian dolls. When the burial party tried to fit these inside the stone sarcophagus, the largest coffin proved too big. The toes peeked out and prevented the lid from closing. So, the coffin's toes were cut away by carpenters. They left the shavings on the floor of the sarcophagus for Howard Carter to find 3,000 years later. 7. Strange metal objects were found in the tomb. When the king's tomb was opened, among the treasure trove of golden coffins wrapped close to his mummified body, an exceptional dagger, still sharp after thousands of years, was discovered. The blade was made of iron, a substance practically unknown in Bronze Age Egypt, prompting some to suggest this dagger was created by extraterrestrials. Of course, that's not true. If you want to discover more about this intriguing artifact, we have 2 films about Tutankhamun's daggers. Tutankhamun's Iron Dagger and Tutankhamun's Gold Dagger. Both are free to watch on this channel. 8. The memory of his reign was obliterated after his death. Tutankhamun's death marked the end of his bloodline. His successor was his advisor, the Grand Vizier I, who married his widow and then quietly disposed of her. Although I had served both Akhenaten and his son, he set about the process of removing all references to the heretic king and his family. I's successor, Horemheb, the last king of the 18th dynasty, completed the job of erasing Tutankhamun's legacy by replacing Tutankhamun's name with his own on many monuments. Ironically, when Tutankhamun's tomb was discovered, he became the most famous pharaoh of all. 9. His DNA has helped identify other mummies. Tutankhamun was inbred, something that wasn't uncommon with royal families trying to maintain a pure bloodline throughout history. Around 2010, an analysis of DNA taken from the mummies of King Tut and his relatives revealed that the boy pharaoh's parents had been brother and sister. Scientists at Zurich-based DNA Genealogy Center reconstructed the DNA profile of the boy pharaoh, his father Akhenaten, and grandfather Amenhotep III, for the Discovery Channel. The results showed that King Tut belonged to a genetic profile group, known as haplogroup R1b1a2, to which more than 50% of all men in Western Europe belong, indicating that they share a common ancestor. Among modern-day Egyptians, this haplogroup contingent is below 1%, according to the scientists who carried out the research. Thanks to the development of modern DNA analysis, researchers have been able to create a family tree spanning back 5 generations. 10. King Tut's tomb recently received a makeover. After years of traffic from tourists, King Tut's tomb was closed to visitors in 2009 to undergo a long conservation project. At the beginning of 2019, the archaeological site was finally reopened to the public. Today, the attraction features an air filtration and ventilation system, restored wall paintings, a viewing platform, and new barriers to protect precious artifacts from viewers. King Tut's tomb is one of the most popular destinations for tourists visiting Egypt. The sheer number of tourists visiting the site has led to the development of a replica tomb using the latest laser scanning and printing technology. Now visitors can see both the restored original and the replica. If you have enjoyed this video, please give us a like by pressing the like button. If you want to know more fascinating facts about ancient Egypt and never miss an episode of the Numbers of Thoth, please subscribe. And don't forget to take a look at our other films. They are all free to watch on YouTube. Until next time, thank you for watching, and goodbye.